Now, in thinking about the show, Song of Fire and Ice, which I'm assuming will be a title for it, uh, I'm actually wanting to make a comparison with Battlestar Galactica. I just finished watching the United Nations panel discussion with Battlestar Galactica, the writers, and the actors, and the various people who are key members of the United Nations, responsible in different areas. And one of the writers, David Eick, said, before they made the show, what's going to make this space soap opera different from the others? What's going to make it unique? And I think the same question could be asked of this show. And when you look at the BBC's Robin Hood, one of the concepts, one of the themes that was brought up initially, and I think that that attracted me and caught my interest, was, and Ronald Moore kept bringing this up, use the genre as a prism to look at yourself, look at your current times, to help examine your current times. So how can you use the genre of swords and magic, fantasy, as a sort of prism for what's going on around you? But then again, it's fantasy is escapist. It's how can the person enjoying it take themselves out of their life and see themselves in the fantasy world that's created. So you can have that as well. But at the same time, what will make the show compelling, what will really attract the audience, is if you have the not black and white but the gray areas. If you have the environment just so rich and so full of options and choices that it's not clear what should be done. It's not clear what is right and what's wrong, or what is a good decision, what's a bad decision. And I'm thinking that that could also be done with this program. You don't want it to simply follow one person as they go through an experience. Oh, this is my little epic quest as I go here and there. You have multiple people. You have multiple storylines. Rich varied history, which can be drawn upon and used as the basis for all the story, the programs in each episode that's created. I think that you want to just look at it and say, okay, what's going on in our current time? Well, there's warfare going on. And is this an aspect of man? Is this an aspect of nature? Is this, what is the purpose of what's happening here? And really you can get at that because what is the nature of the conflict? Or how did the people engage in conflict? It's hand-to-hand melee combat, which is you have to get into the face. You have to get into the personal kill zone of an opponent, engage that opponent, and try your best to overcome. When you watch various programs on combat, especially sword fighting, hand-to-hand, whether in Europe or in Japan, there's a lot of ritualized, or not, sort of like rhythms of movement and action, and you practice over and over again. If my opponent makes this move, this is how I'll counter. If my opponent attacks this way, this is how I will dodge or deflect. And so you're training yourself, removing the humanity of being surprised by something, and instead forcing yourself to objectively understand what is happening to you right then and there, and be able to respond in kind. This is so. This is why ideas like if you see a guy in a big suit of plate armor and he has a helmet on, what's he going to do? How's he going to fight? And the thing is, once you lose your peripheral vision, once your vision is narrowed, and if everything is involving, what you can do with your hands, what you can see, that's where the reality and the fantasy start colliding. So it works to make the show more realistic, to have a realistic, flair and or flavor and tone. That's what will attract audiences. That's what will help people bridge that gap to taking in the program and seeing it in a different, frame of mind. The other aspect is that you're showing a, quote unquote, primitive society and people's different values. Because it's also a question of how do people value each other. And I think this is a lot of ideas that can be explored in the program. Not just have it, oh, here's the prince, here's the princess, he fights the dragon, and then they go live off and live happily ever after. It's, here are key players who motivate and move and drive all these other actions to occur. And now here's the people who work and support those key players, those key elements, and here's the background, characters as well. How do they all interact? How do they all fit together? So, some ideas like that. How do you make the sword and magic fantasy differ from all the others? Roar was nice, it was interesting, but I think it was a little too clean cut. It was a step above what was presented in Hercules. Legend of the Seeker, while it gives us the violence and it gives us a new area to explore, it's still here's the hero, his epic quest, the love interest, the the wise old man wizard, and okay, the Deus Ex Machina, which will come through and save the day at the end. Remove that hand of God. Make it so that the characters are gripping, coming to grips and terms with their own mortality. That they don't just kind of happen upon and throw themselves into a situation like, oh well, hopefully, luckily, something will happen. And also don't have it that even the quote-unquote bad guys, they have to fight to the death. If they don't, and if one of them runs away, lives to tell the tale, like, oh, he's put to death for showing cowardice or not this and that. You wouldn't have that. You would value each person who served you, because that person has a loyalty to you, and it's up to you to reciprocate that loyalty. It's hard to get men, trained men. So every person's an asset. If you had a group of 10 guys, got into a fight, 2 died, you would pull out, you would run away, because you wouldn't want to lose any more men. These are men who you live with, work with, but that's another idea, so just something I was thinking about.